things that we begin to understand as we are walking with God in any way is that stuff happens in our lives. There's not a question about it. And when we pray a prayer that was prayed like that guy there, he just said, God, do whatever you want to do. We, of course, would like him to do that the way that we want him to do it. It's sort of like, do whatever you do, but I got a little plan here that would work the best. And then he shows up with one of these. And he starts, chiseling away at the people that we think we are on the outside. But God's heart is that as he begins to chisel away, as we got the last part before we lost the video, he wants to chisel away everything that isn't him. Everything that isn't him. Of course, when we look at ourselves, we just think, maybe a hair trim will help, and maybe a mani-pedi will, or, just saying, it can't be that. How much could there possibly be? But then he's, if he was coming at me with a nail clipper, I'd be a lot happier, but he's coming at me with this. And he wants to remove the things that are in the way. He calls us, my son, my daughter, and we say, I can't. And he comes at us and he says, I made you good, and our response is, you don't understand who I am. You don't understand. You don't understand the stuff that's going on inside that nobody knows. Nobody knows. Stuff that I can just cover up easily with my humor or just something to keep things okay. It's the chisel is, this is Pastor Roger's chisel. I don't own a chisel. I need to own a chisel. This is my hammer. The challenge that we have is when God holds these, he wants to do something very important in our life because he knows us so well. But here's the dilemma that I find all the time. And I sit with people all the time walking through things in their life. And things happen in our lives. Sickness happens. Divorce happens. Just careers happen. Everything happens. It can be from the simplest thing to the greatest thing. It can be a car accident and a new car that you finally saved up enough money to get. It can be a friend, a boyfriend, girlfriend, or just a friend that just turns their back on you for no apparent reason. But you see, the challenge is these two tools become an important part if we follow it through of how God can change our life. And the difficulty is too often we're too free to hand these tools to somebody else. We wait, we ask God to do it, but we just feel like, I don't know if I want to do it that way. So we hand it to our girlfriend and say, you may make me the way you think I should be. Or we hand it to our career and say, I know these things are illegal, but hey, just whatever you have to do to make me a better teacher, architect, whatever it might be. Student. See, it's too easy for us. If maybe we get a little desperate, we begin to just hand these around. We walk into a situation, a social situation, we say, here, I want to fit in here. So take off everything that keeps me, different from everyone else. Take off the things that people don't like about me. And if we keep going in that direction, and maybe we have walked with the Lord somewhere along the way, what we start to find out is that the things that people want to take off of us are the very things that Christ is trying to keep on us. And so truth, all of a sudden, the world says, you can't always be truthful. Sat with someone just this week. And it was a simple thing that he decided to do. And he said, Pastor, I prayed about it and I just felt this was the right way to go. I said, now let me ask you something. In the 3 sentences you gave me, you've already told me 3 deceptive things you had to do in order for that to be sustained. How can you think that God's in there? You see, the world gets in there and they want to remove all the things that we see that God has placed in us of who he is in our lives. Well, I know everybody's here from maybe a different perspective. Some of you are here from the church. You grew up in the church here. There's some other churches. And some of you, you just wandered in here tonight, or someone brought you in, and you're just like, I don't even know what's in me, much less what's being taken out of me. But there's a place where we start to lose the very identity of who God has created us to be. The very person that He's called us to be, with our gifts, our talents, and our abilities. The things that are important in our lives, the things that say, that's who you are. I get kidded all the time in the staff about a lot of things, but we'll minimize them here. So, when you have a 22-year-old daughter, and you're doing something like this, she has to dress me, otherwise I had a suit and tie all day because I was at the nursing home. I said, that doesn't really matter to Dad, seriously, So they kid me all about that all the time. I mean, don't wear that. Wear that. I can't believe you're wearing that, It's those simple little things. And it's so easy to lose our identity. And what I've watched is two steps. We lose our identity because the world doesn't want us to look like Christ. Doesn't want us to look like Christ. Doesn't want us to sound like Christ. Doesn't want us to sound anything like this. This is what it looks like when it's not an iPad. It just looks just like this. All written up, pasted into pictures of my grandson. They don't want this as part of my identity. They don't want this. And so it's a constant, how do we remove these things? But what I found is that when our identity is removed, our destiny is destroyed. When our identity is removed, our destiny is destroyed. Because now God has a plan and a purpose for our life, and as that purpose starts unfolding, we start changing. God says, here's the direction I have for you, and that's great. But before I get there, I want to make some changes here. All that praying and Bible reading, that's a lot for me, and then every time I do that, I seem to have less friends and less people to connect with. So I'll just stop that a little bit. But then we look this way to where our destiny is and find out that it's not as clear as it was a little while ago. Because we're changing. We don't fit into the plan that God has. And hence that's what this video is about God coming in with that chisel, God coming in with that hammer. And I wish I could tell you it all just happens, but it hurts. It hurts. There are things that God wants to remove in our life. It hurts because it's so much of who we are. We've just absorbed it into our lives. The challenge is not just to be different on the outside. Before I was in ministry, I was an architect. We would go to the site of wherever the house was being built. I did houses out east, and both in the Hamptons and on the North Shore, small firm. First thing you did is you went out there and you looked at the site. What can be built here? What are the things that can be put on this foundation? And if we don't build the right foundation, we're not going to have anything. What are the things that really matter? What are the foundations that begin to be built so that all of a sudden what comes out of that is something that's incredible? I'm happy to say that all the houses with all the storms are all still standing. I check on them throughout. Go around the corner. But I want to give you a foundation tonight. That it's not just about God out there with some rules that we've got to follow in order to get to wherever this is He's bringing us. But it's really about someone that knows us so intimately and wants to know us so intimately that He spends His time on the most minutiae things of our life because He cares about us. Psalm 139, and you'll see it, it'll scroll through on the back screens there, but just so that you continually see it. But I want to read a portion of it to you. It's from the very beginning, Psalm 139. Hey, we got that one up. Good. All right. O Lord, you search me and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down, and you are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely, O Lord. You hem me in behind and before. You laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. This is the God that's got this in his hand. This is the God that's not randomly trying. See, he's not trying to make us look like each other. He's not. He has no intention of all of us looking the same way, having the same words, have the same phrases, have the same habits. No, he wants us to look like only one person, his son, Jesus Christ. So he begins to remove things. But look at these words. You search me and you know me. That word knowing is the most intimate knowledge, that intimate oneness. That's how God sees me. You search me. In other words, it's not like God shows up and goes, oh, here we are again, Ted. Here we are again. I was hoping to get out the back door. You're here. Here you are. You know, as pastors, we do that sometimes, I have to admit. They'll all admit that. Sometimes it's just a long day. My day started up in the prayer room this morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. There's some days you just, by the end of the Sunday service, you're like, where's the back door? I just want to go out the back door. You know what? There's always someone at that back door waiting for you. One woman said, Pastor, I needed to talk with you. I said, oh, nuts. She said, I always know you go out this back door. So it was my wife. No, just kidding. So, it means that God is saying, I'm after you. I'm after you. I'm searching out because I want to know you more and more and more. I'm making an effort. God, the creator of heaven and earth, is concerned about me. He really is. So much so the word says he searches me out. And then this is an incredible thing. Think of the heart of the psalmist. David writes this. He goes, you know when I sit and when I rise, you perceive my thoughts from afar. Holy mackerel, I don't even know that. And he is. You know when I'm sitting down, when I rise up, that matters to you? There's wars and rumors of war, and you know when I sat down, when I got up. You know what I'm thinking before I even say it. Believe me, I definitely don't know what I'm thinking before I open my mouth. But God says, you perceive my thoughts from afar. You know the stuff that's running around in my head, the stuff that gets me in trouble, the stuff that depresses me, the stuff that causes me to say, I'm not going anywhere, I'm just closing myself in. The stuff that says, I just want everything you have for me, God. That's it. You discern my going out and my lying down. And this is, I love this. You are familiar with all my ways. Those depressions that I go through, those places where I'm envious, those places where I'm confused, the places where I've got a smile from ear to ear and inside I'm just screaming, the places that I'm afraid that I'm being left out, and the places too that I'm glad that I'm part of whatever's going on. But I feel good. It's all of it. It's not just the negative. You're familiar with all my ways. He knows the places where his presence is received into my life, and the joy of his presence is there. And then this beautiful thing, you know, before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely, O Lord. Before a word's on my tongue. So with everything going on in this crazy world that we're living in, that's how intimately God knows me. So when he picks up this chisel, and when he picks up this hammer, it's not about God randomly trying to, let's try this. Let's try this. He goes, I know the words that are coming out of his mouth. I know the things that she's thinking. And because of my love, I'm going to start trimming away everything that doesn't reflect me. Everything that doesn't have my name written upon it and my thoughts. Yeah, I entitled this, I said, it's Secret Wars 1. Because you know the reality is, there are times in our life, all of us, even in the best places, and I've been at both ends of the spectrum, believe me, where it feels like there's a war going on, and the crazy part is, nobody else knows. You're just going through the routines. Every day. School, family, friends, church, work. Just going through the routines. Last Sunday, I'm a morning person. Our daughter's here, Jacqueline. I'm like a morning person. Like a 5 o'clock in the morning person. And I'm like, morning, hi everybody, good morning. Phyllis, my wife and Jacqueline are not morning people. Not morning people. So that's when I have my time with the Lord, early in the morning. He's up, I'm up, we might as well get together, as long as we have a cup of coffee between us. It works, Get me at 11:30 at night, not a good time. That's not my happy time. Not even close to happy. It's like, if I could go to sleep in my clothes, I would do it. That's it. And I'm done and I'm out until 5 o'clock in the morning. See, there's just those things that make us unique, those things that make us who we are. And that's what God knows all that. He's not trying to change those things. What he's trying to do is get rid of the stuff that's in the way of him and his truth and his promises. So we get to those places where maybe we can't forgive. And he says, I'm going to get that stuff out of the way that's stopping you from being able to have that place of healing in someone's life because forgiveness is in the way. Pastor, you don't understand. You don't understand the level of forgiveness you're talking about. I don't have to understand, but he does. If he knows my very thoughts, he knows when I get to the edge of that place where I have to extend forgiveness and that wall comes up. And that's when God comes in there. And he wants to take that out. And he wants to start breaking that wall down. You see, I think that the question that we have to ask, some of you have probably some great friends here. People that maybe you grew up with. Especially, the women tend to have relationships much longer than men. Men forget, But I'll meet women that at the church here that this has been my friend since kindergarten. Holy mackerel, I don't know where I went to kindergarten. And we've been friends. So I thought, oh, wow, that's good for you. I don't know if I want a friend that long. So the real question is who really is interested in knowing you? Who really is? Or do they want to only know you in this setting, not this one? In the times where everything's good, not the times when everything's bad? Or there are some people that just really like to know you in your problems. Well, you know what? God's come into my life, and I really think everything's great now. Seriously? What about the problems then they'll list them to you. Remember this? What about that? Well, I think Christ answered that. No, I don't know. You're going to look backwards. Their relationship, believe it or not, is built on the negative part of your life. As long as you're having trouble, they're there for you. In the technical term, it's called codependency. They need you to have problems so they can stay in the relationship. That's not how God works. When God comes into our life, it says, He cares about when you lie down and when you get up. More than your parents. He's there in that place where he's watching every single thing that's happened. And his love begins to break those barriers down that are so easy to build up. It says, and this is the response that we have, how precious to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast are the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I awake, I am still with you. Now, I think the psalmist is talking about, literally waking up. But I want to just stretch a little, and I think I can stay in the scriptures to do that. Aren't there times where you just sort of wake up? Holy mackerel, what am I doing with my life? What am I doing in this relationship? What am I doing with my finances, my time? What am I doing? And it's as if whenever that happens, and believe me, it doesn't, I wish I could tell you, at 30, all the answers come. I'm past 30. I don't got all the answers yet. But at some point along the way, there's that wake up and realizing, God, you're still here. You're still here? You know my thoughts. You know my coming. You know my going. You're familiar with all my ways. And you're still here? Nobody stays with me like that. Nobody wants to know all that of me and stay with me. I'm going to ask the band to come up, and here's what happens. At some point in our life, we have to be able to say, God, here's the chisel. Here's the hammer. Here it is, Lord. You're the only one that I can entrust this to. You're the only one that can look into my heart and my life and be able to remove the things that have to be removed. Because quite honestly, I don't really trust anybody else. Because they're trying to make me look like them. They're trying to make me feel like them. They're trying to make me understand like them. But that's not what you want, God. You want me to look like you. To be in your presence. He says, when we're born again, our lives are conformed into the image of Christ. And so, at the very end, the end of this psalm is these incredible words that opens a doorway that maybe we've held shut for so long. Because no one's going to hurt us again. No one's going to change our life again. I'm not going to get caught again. I'm going to be living my own life. And yet the psalmist cries out in these incredible words, "Search me, O God, and know my heart." Search me, O God. You're the one that knows every word before I'm saying it. You can search me. You can look into my heart. You can look into my life and know my heart. And know my heart. And test me. And know my anxious thoughts. Hey, listen, I've walked with the Lord for a long time. There are moments I come to that crossroad and I think, God, I don't know what you're doing right now. I don't know what's unfolding right now. Maybe it's a financial crisis. Maybe it's a relational crisis. Maybe it's in my job, whatever it is. But all of a sudden, it's like, I am anxious. Don't think for a minute that just because you walk with God for years, all of a sudden it's just like, hey, no problem. There's always those moments. Those moments where you stand there and you go, I don't really know what to do. I know this is the step of faith I have to take, but I'm taking slow steps here, God. There's anxious thoughts here. I'm anxious about what's going to happen. I'm usually in control of this area of my life, and all of a sudden, I'm not. Test me. Know my anxious thoughts. And see if there be any offensive way within me. And then lead me in the everlasting way. My identity. The everlasting way. My destiny. I don't know, it may have to do with finding Mr. Right or Miss Right. That person that you just think, if I could just get the right person, then I can get on with my life. I can't tell you how wrong that is. I just can't. Because if I say to God, Lord, all I want to do is serve you. It's just no extra charge for this, all right? Real simple. Best thing I can tell you is, as God works in your life, you just start running towards Him. He's going to take off the stuff that weighs you down. I'm not a runner. I'm not anything. I'm an eater, usually. But He's going to start taking off the stuff that slows you down, and you start running towards Him because you realize God has the answers. He knows me intimately. He knows what's... You start going towards Him, and you run as fast as you can to what God has. And while you're running, look to the left and look to the right. And if you see someone, some gal, some guy running next to you, and they're going in the same direction, look again. Because ultimately, you're going the same place. And that's where you want to be going. Let Him search you tonight. Let Him test you tonight. Let Him see into your heart of hearts. And if it means the chisel, then let it come. Because He loves us enough that He knows even as He removes those things, He takes us, He holds that area, and He brings healing. The things that you say, I don't think that could ever change in my life. You don't know what I've been through. God says, absolutely. And as I chisel this area out, and you feel like you're going to bleed out, He puts His hands of healing, those hands that were on the cross for you. And the healing begins deep within your heart, deep within your life. What others will see is Christ revealed in you. Not religion, not church, not a bunch of rules and regulations. It's Christ in you, the hope of glory. Christ in you when you respond differently than what the world is doing. Christ in you when everybody is confused and you see, no, this is the direction we need to go. When people are depending upon their careers for their security, and you realize, God's given me this career and I'm enjoying it, and I believe you're going to take care of everything. People are giving up everything they believed in order to have this relationship, and yet you have the joy as you're serving God. And then that day, God brings that person into your life. Is that a fantasy? Happened to me. Happened to Bradley. I'm hoping it'll happen with Jacqueline soon. Serving Him. Let Him chisel that stuff off that's in the way. And you'll see the destiny He has for you. When you move there, who knows? Who knows what great things God has for you? So wait on Him and see the things that are unfolding every day. Let's pray together. Lord, tonight we've come into this place not to be entertained, but to say, Lord, take that chisel. I had stuff, Lord. But I know time, you know it all. You know it all. And so here I am, Lord. And in this time of worship and praise of who you are, though maybe I'm just getting to understand who you are a little bit, or maybe, Lord, I've known you so long that I've just got too familiar with you. I pray that you will tonight, Lord, take that chisel of your love and grace and move in my life in a deep way. Thank you.